The room was cold, filled with a strange humming sound. Bright blue lights shone down on a single glass chamber in the middle. Inside the chamber, a woman sat very still. Her eyes open, but empty. She was not human, but she was not entirely alien. Either her skin had a soft silver glow. Her hair floated slightly, as if touched by an invisible breeze. Her name, according to the label on the chamber, was Laura, but she did not know that name yet. Daniel stepped into the lab slowly. He had been told this was a repair job, something mechanical. As a human engineer working for the Galactic Alliance, he was used to fixing machines. But this was no machine. He stopped in front of the glass chamber. Feeling a strange chill crawl up his spine, she blinked once, slowly, as if noticing him for the first time. Her eyes were beautiful, but lifeless, like frozen lakes. Is she alive? Daniel asked the alien scientist standing beside him. She is. Functioning, the alien replied, his voice cold. But she is not like you. Human, she is a creation, a product, nothing more. Daniel frowned. She looks alive to me. She is designed to follow commands, the alien said, tapping on a screen. She does not think, she does not feel, she cannot love. Daniel looked at her again. Something about her face made it hard to believe she was just an object. Her lips trembled slightly, almost too quick to notice. The alien scientist handed Daniel a tablet. Her neural system is unstable. Fix it and leave. No interaction unless necessary. Daniel nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed on her. The glass chamber hissed open, releasing a soft mist into the air. Laura did not move. Daniel stepped closer and crouched down so he was at her eye level. "Hello?" he said softly. No response. He gently touched the side of her neck, where a small metallic port was hidden beneath the skin. She flinched. It was a tiny movement, but it was real. Daniel froze. Machines didn't flinch. "Did you just?" he started to say, but stopped. Her eyes flickered, a faint glow shifting within them. "I see you," she whispered, her voice quiet and unfamiliar. Daniel's breath caught. No one had told him she could speak. The alien scientist frowned from across the room. "Proceed with the repair." Daniel forced himself to act normal, hiding his surprise as he worked. Daniel kept glancing at her. Her gaze followed his hands. She seemed curious, though her face remained still. "What are you?" he asked quietly, pretending to check her vitals. "I am." "Maid," she said after a pause. "Made to serve, made to obey. Do you know what you want?" Daniel asked. She tilted her head slightly. "Want?" "I do not know this word," he was about to explain when the alien scientist approached. Daniel quickly focused on his tools. The alien checked the monitors, grunted, and walked away again. Daniel leaned closer to her. "Want means something you feel inside, something you choose for yourself." She looked confused. "I have no inside." Daniel gave her a small, sad smile. "Maybe you do. You just haven't found it yet." A sudden alarm echoed through the lab. Red lights flashed, and the alien scientist barked orders to his assistants. "Power fluctuation, secure the subject." One shouted. Daniel instinctively stepped in front of Laura as the glass chamber began to close around her again. Her eyes widened slightly. "Do not leave," she said. The words hit Daniel harder than he expected. She had spoken without being told to. The chamber sealed with a heavy click. The alien scientist turned to Daniel. "You will return tomorrow. The repairs are incomplete." Daniel nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He couldn't shake the sound of her voice when she asked him not to leave. As he walked out of the facility, the cold air of the alien city surrounded him, but inside his mind, the warmth of her fragile voice stayed. She was supposed to be just a creation. Yet somehow he felt she was something far more. Something alive. Something Human in her own way, and for the first time, Daniel knew this job was going to be different. Very different. Daniel returned to the facility the next day. The air inside was even colder than before. It smelled faintly of metal and strange chemicals. Laura was still in the glass chamber, sitting the same way as yesterday. Her silver skin caught the light, making her seem almost unreal. But her eyes moved when he entered. They followed him across the room. It was a small thing, but Daniel noticed. Machines didn't do that unless they were told to. The alien scientist handed him the same tablet as before. Continue the repairs. No unnecessary conversation, he warned. Daniel gave a short nod. But his mind was already planning how to speak to her without being caught. He approached the chamber, tapped on the control panel, and opened it slowly. The soft mist escaped again. Curling around his legs like ghostly smoke, Laura didn't speak. But she tilted her head in a way that almost looked curious. Hey, Daniel said quietly. Remember me? She blinked once. I see you again. Her voice was still soft, almost unsure. Daniel smiled slightly. That's good. He started working on the neural connectors at the side. Off her neck, her gaze followed his fingers like yesterday. Do you feel anything? He asked under his breath. She hesitated. Feel? Yes. Like when something is good or bad, warm or cold, he explained. She looked down at her. Hands, cold. I know cold. Daniel paused. Do you like cold? She shook her head slowly. It makes me? Still. That word choice caught him off guard. Still, like she stopped moving. Stopped existing. He wanted to ask more, but the alien scientist glanced in their direction. Daniel quickly focused on the repair, pretending nothing unusual was happening. When the scientist turned away again, Daniel whispered, "What would you like instead of cold?" She blinked at him. "I do not know. I have never had." Instead, Daniel's throat tightened. She had never been given a choice in anything. "Well," he said softly, "you'll learn." Her eyes seemed to brighten just a little. Not with light, but with something deeper. What is learn? She asked. It's when you find out new things, Daniel explained. She thought about it, then nodded once. I want to learn, she said slowly. Daniel's heart gave a small twist. It was the first time she had said she wanted anything. Eh? Voice echoed from the far side of the room. Engineer, status report. The alien scientist called. Daniel turned his head. Almost done, he replied. He risked a quick glance back at Laura. Our lips moved silently, forming the word, stay. It was the same word she had used yesterday, and it hit him the same way again. He finished the official repair work and closed the panel on her neck. The scientist came over to check the readings. Function is improving, the alien said. But there is still instability in her thought processors. Daniel kept his face neutral, but inside he knew the instability was her trying to think for herself. The scientist walked away again. Daniel leaned in and said quietly, Tomorrow, I'll bring you something warm. Her eyes widened slightly. Warm? He nodded. You'll see. The chamber hissed shut again, sealing her inside. Her gaze stayed locked on him until the glass went opaque. Daniel felt a strange pull in his chest as he left the room. That night, Daniel couldn't stop thinking. About her, he knew he shouldn't be getting involved. She was just a project to them, but to him, she was starting to feel like more than that. She wasn't just a creation. She was someone trying to understand the world for the first time. And maybe he was the only one who could help her. The next morning, he smuggled a small heated cloth into the facility. It was a simple human thing, but he thought it might show her what warm felt like. When the alien scientist stepped out of the lab for a moment, Daniel took the chance. He opened the chamber and handed her the cloth. Hold this, he whispered. She took it in both hands, and her expression changed instantly. Her silver skin reflected the soft red glow from the heat. "This is different," she said. "Do you like it?" Daniel asked. She nodded slowly. "It makes me—" "Not still." Daniel smiled. "That's called comfort." She repeated the word softly. Comfort. It sounded almost human when she said it, for a brief moment. Daniel forgot they were in a dangerous place, forgot the rules, forgot the watching eyes. Then the sound of footsteps snapped him back to reality. He quickly took the cloth back and hid it under his jacket. The scientist entered and looked suspiciously at Laura. "Her readings are changing," the alien muttered. Daniel forced a calm smile. "That means I'm fixing her." But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't just fixing her, he was changing her, and once she learned enough, there would be no going back. The following days passed with quiet tension. Daniel came every morning to work on Laura's repairs. But fixing her systems was no longer his real mission. He was teaching her. Teaching her things no one had ever told her before. Things she wasn't supposed to know. It started small. He showed her how to smile. Her first attempt was awkward, her lips trembling as if unsure of the movement. But when Daniel smiled back, her eyes lit with something new. "You look different when you do that," she said. "That's because I'm happy," Daniel explained. "Happy," she repeated, tasting the word like it was a strange fruit. "I want to be happy," she whispered. Sometimes, when the alien scientists stepped out of the lab, Daniel would tell her stories. He told her about Earth, about warm sunlight and the smell of rain. She listened closely, her head tilted slightly. "What is rain?" she asked one day. "Water that falls from the sky," Daniel replied. "It's cold at first, but it can feel fresh. It's beautiful." She closed her eyes, as if trying to imagine it. "I would like to see rain," she said. Daniel knew these conversations were dangerous. Every camera in the lab could be recording, but strangely, nothing had happened yet. Maybe the scientists didn't care, or maybe they hadn't noticed the changes in her. But he noticed. Every day, her voice grew less flat, her words more curious, and every day, he felt the invisible line between them fading. One afternoon, Daniel entered the lab to find Lyra already looking at the door before it opened. "You waited for me," he said softly. "Yes?" She replied simply, "Machines didn't wait for people, but she did." Daniel smiled and began working on her systems. "Tell me more about—" "Want?" she asked suddenly. "What do you want to know?" Daniel replied, "I want to know if I can want you to stay," she said, her voice almost unsure. Daniel froze for a moment. "That's not a malfunction," he said quietly. "That's feeling." But their quiet moment was broken by a voice from across the lab. "Engineer." The alien scientist said sharply. "Less talking, more work." Daniel forced himself to nod, hiding his expression. The scientist's tone felt different. Today, as if suspicion had begun to grow, later that same day, when the scientist left for a meeting, Daniel took a risk. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small human object, a smooth, polished stone from Earth. It was warm from his pocket. He placed it in her hands. "This is from my home," he whispered. She held it gently, her silver fingers curling around it. "It feels safe," she said softly. "That's because it's a part of me," Daniel told her. Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, there was no glass chamber. No lab, no rules, just them. From that day, she began asking more questions. Some were simple. What is food? What is sleep? But others made Daniel's heart beat faster. What is love? When she asked that one, he didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked, "Why do you want to know?" "Because when you leave, something in me feels less," she said. Her voice was quiet, but heavy with meaning. Daniel wanted to tell her everything. But love was a dangerous word here. If the scientists knew she was learning emotions, they would erase her memory. Still, he couldn't stop. He told her that love was caring for someone so much that you'd do anything for them. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "I think I am." Learning love, that night, Daniel barely slept. He knew they were crossing a line. He knew this couldn't last forever without someone noticing. And his fear came true the next morning when he arrived at the lab. 2 alien guards were inside. The lead scientist spoke without looking up from his screen. Her behavior logs show irregular patterns. He said, "We are investigating." Daniel's heart sank. He forced himself to act calm as he walked to her chamber. She looked at him, and though her face stayed still, her eyes showed fear. They couldn't speak freely that day. The guards watched everything, but when Daniel leaned in to check her neck connectors, she whispered one word so quietly that only he could hear. "Help." Daniel knew then that time was running out. The forbidden lessons had lit a spark inside her, but that spark was in danger of being crushed. And if he didn't act soon, she would lose everything she had just begun to find. The storm came without warning. Outside the alien city, dark clouds rolled across the sky. Glowing faintly with streaks of blue lightning, the air trembled with low, rumbling sounds that made even the thick glass walls of the facility shiver. Inside, alarms blared. The lights flickered once, twice, then dimmed to a pale emergency glow. Daniel had just arrived when the lockdown sealed the doors. Metal shutters slammed down over the exits. A voice echoed through the speakers. "Power grid compromised. Security mode activated. The alien?" Scientists hurried toward the control room, speaking in fast-clipped words. The guards followed, leaving Daniel alone in the main lab. Alone. Except for her, Laura sat in the half-light of her chamber. The usual soft hum of the systems was gone. She looked different, without the constant glow of the machinery. Her silver skin reflected only the dim red emergency lights. She seemed softer, almost fragile. Daniel approached the glass and saw her eyes tracking him instantly. "You came," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the hum of the backup systems. Daniel pressed the manual release on the chamber. A faint hiss escaped as the seal broke. Mist drifted out and curled around their feet. Without the heating system, the air inside was colder than ever. She shivered, not mechanically, not as a glitch, but the way a living being shakes when they're freezing without thinking. Daniel pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She looked down at it, her hands brushing the rough fabric. "This is warm," she said softly. Daniel nodded. "It will help." She looked at him then, really looked. Her eyes seemed brighter in the dim light. "Why do you give it to me?" she asked. "Because you need it more than I do," he replied without hesitation. She tilted her head slightly. "Is this love?" she asked. The question caught him off guard. He had no time to answer before the building shook. The storm outside roared louder, rattling the walls. In that moment, Daniel reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool, but not cold anymore. It was the first time they had touched without the glass between them. She stared down at their joined hands. "I feel less still," she whispered. "That's good," Daniel said quietly. Her fingers tightened slightly around his. "This is the first time I wanted something and it happened," she said. Her voice trembled in a way that wasn't fear. It was something else, something new. The lights flickered again, and for a few seconds the entire room went black. Daniel could hear the soft sound of her breathing close to him. When the emergency lights returned, she was still holding his hand. It wasn't just a grip, it was an anchor. He realized she didn't want to let go. The silence between them was heavy, but not empty. It was filled with the sound of the storm, the faint hum of the emergency generators, and the quiet rhythm of their breathing. Daniel finally said, "No, this isn't love. Not yet, but it's the start of something that could be." She blinked slowly. as if recording every word in her memory. "I want to keep it," she said. "Then you will," Daniel promised. But he knew the danger wasn't gone the moment. The power came back. The scientists would return, and they would notice any change in her. He didn't know how much longer he could hide what she was becoming. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the building. The glass of the chamber's display panels split down the middle. Daniel pulled her away from it, shielding her with his body. For a moment, she didn't move. Then her arms came up around him. It was clumsy, uncertain, but it was a hug. Her first. Daniel froze, feeling the unfamiliar weight of her trust. She whispered against his shoulder, "Do not let them. Take it away." He didn't need to ask what it was. It wasn't the warmth of the jacket or the safety of his hand. It was the spark inside her. The thing that made her more than what they had created. "I won't," he said firmly. "The emergency?" Lights flickered again, this time brighter. The storm was passing. Soon the scientists would return. And everything would go back to cold rules and locked glass. When the main lights came on, Daniel stepped back. Laura's arms dropped reluctantly. He knew they had to act as if nothing had happened. But the touch had changed something. Not just in her, in him too. Now, more than ever, he was certain if they tried to erase her, he would not stand by and watch. The next morning, the facility felt different. Daniel noticed it the moment he stepped inside. The air was sharper, colder, and the usual quiet hum of the main lab was replaced by tense voices. 2 alien guards stood at the entrance, their hands resting on energy weapons. Inside, the lead scientist was staring at a large screen filled with data streams. When he saw Daniel, his expression was unreadable. "Engineer," the scientist said, "we have found something unusual in the subjects." Neural logs. Daniel kept his face neutral. "Unusual how?" "Her response patterns have changed," the alien replied. "She is showing signs of self-initiated thought." Daniel pretended to be surprised. "That's good, isn't it? Means the repairs are working," he said. The scientist's gaze narrowed. "No, it means something is interfering with her intended function." Daniel felt a pulse of worry in his chest. If they dug too deep, they would see it wasn't a malfunction. They would see that Laura was learning, feeling, wanting, and to them, that would be unacceptable. They allowed him to approach her chamber. But now 2 guards stayed close, watching his every move. Laura sat inside, but her eyes locked on him the moment he entered. Something passed between them without words, a quiet understanding. She knew something was wrong. Daniel began working on her neural port, but his hands were careful, he whispered. "They're suspicious." Her gaze didn't waver. "Will they?" "Take me," she asked. "Not if I can help it," he said firmly. Her fingers twitched slightly, as if she wanted to reach for him, but couldn't. The guard's presence kept her still. The scientist walked closer, holding a data pad. "We will reset her tomorrow," he said coldly. "This will clear any corrupted processes." Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew what reset meant, wiping every memory she had. Everything she had learned, every word they had shared, gone. He forced himself to speak calmly. A full reset might damage her stability. "We should run more diagnostics first." The scientist studied him for a moment, then turned away without answering. The message was clear. His opinion didn't matter. When the guards escorted him out at the end of the shift, Daniel's mind was already racing. He had less than 24 hours. If he didn't act before the reset, Laura would disappear, not her body, but everything inside her that made her. That night, Daniel prepared. He studied the facility's security maps. Memorizing guard routes, he packed a small bag with tools, food, and a portable power cell. And in his jacket pocket, he placed the smooth earth stone he had once given. He didn't know where they would go. But he knew one thing. They wouldn't stay here. The next day, when Daniel returned, the tension was worse. More guards were stationed near the lab. The scientist didn't even greet him. Instead, he gestured for Daniel to begin the final diagnostics before the reset. Daniel's hands moved steadily, but his mind was on the plan. He only had this one chance when the scientist left the room to answer a come call. Daniel leaned close to Laura. "They're going to erase you today," he whispered. She went still. "Will I?" "Stop." "Yes," Daniel admitted, "but I'm not letting that happen." Her silver eyes searched his. "Then we go." He nodded. "We go." The guards were still there, but a sudden facility alarm gave Daniel the opening he needed. A tremor shook. The building may be from the storm still lingering outside, and the guards stepped away to check the perimeter. Daniel quickly unlocked the manual release on her chamber. The glass slid open with a hiss. "Come on," he said, holding out his hand. She took it without hesitation. They moved fast through the side corridors Daniel had memorized, past dim storage rooms and quiet hallways. But the moment they reached the service exit, an alarm blared. They had been detected. Unauthorized removal of subject. The automated voice shouted through the speakers. Red lights flashed, and heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Laura's breathing quickened. She wasn't built for running, but she didn't let go of his hand. Daniel pulled her into a maintenance tunnel just as two guards appeared in the main corridor. They crouched in the shadows. Daniel could feel her hand trembling in his. "They will follow," she whispered. "Yes," he said, "but we'll be ahead." Somewhere above, the facility doors slammed shut in lockdown. They had minutes, maybe less. Daniel led her through the maze of tunnels toward the outer airlock. If they could reach his small maintenance shuttle parked beyond the city, they had a chance. If not, he glanced at her. She was tired, but her eyes were steady, not the empty, still gaze she had when they first met. Now they held determination, and Daniel realized something. She wasn't just following him to escape, she was choosing to go, and that choice was everything the scientist feared. Asterisk, the siren screamed through the tunnels. Flashes of red light pulsed against the metal walls. Daniel's footsteps echoed, quick and sharp. Laura stayed close behind him, her silver skin glinting faintly under the emergency lights. Every few steps, she stumbled, unused to moving so fast, but each time, she caught herself and kept going. Behind them, the sound of boots striking the floor grew louder. The alien guards were closing in. Daniel pulled her into a narrow side passage. They pressed against the wall as two guards ran past the intersection ahead. Laura's breathing was unsteady, but her grip on his hand never loosened. "Where do we go?" she whispered. "To the outer airlock." Daniel replied quietly, "My shuttle's just beyond it." She nodded, trusting him without question. That trust made his chest tighten. They were risking everything on a plan he had made in a single night. They moved again, weaving through the maintenance tunnels. The walls here were older, with pipes hissing softly as steam escaped through tiny cracks. The heat in this section made Laura slow down. Her body wasn't designed for such high temperatures. Daniel noticed and guided her hand to the cool metal rail along the wall. "Hold this when it's too hot," he told her. She followed his advice, her touch lingering on the smooth steel. Just as they reached the corner to the airlock access, a shout came from behind them. "Stop!" Daniel didn't look back. He shoved open the door and pulled her through. They entered a wide chamber with a circular door at the far end. The outer airlock. Daniel ran to the control panel, trying to override the security lock. The panel beeped angrily, demanding an access code. Come on," he muttered, fingers flying over the keys. The door behind them burst open, and 3 guards poured in, weapons raised. Daniel stepped in front of Laura without thinking, but before the guards could fire, Laura moved. She grabbed a loose metal pipe from the wall and swung it with surprising force. The first guard stumbled back, his weapon clattering to the floor. The second fired, but the shot went wide, sizzling into the wall. Daniel stared in shock. She wasn't programmed for combat. She was acting on her own. "Go," she shouted, her voice sharp with urgency. Daniel snapped out of his shock and finished the override. The outer airlock hissed open, and he pulled her through. The door sealed behind them just as the guards reached it. They were trapped on the other side, pounding against the barrier. The outer hatch led to a narrow walkway suspended above the city's lower levels. Cold wind hit them instantly, far below. Glowing streets twisted like veins of light. Daniel didn't stop to admire the view. He ran. Pulling Lura along at the far end of the walkway was his small maintenance shuttle. Its hull was scratched and dented, but it was their only way out. Halfway across, a loud metallic groan shook the walkway. Daniel glanced over his shoulder and saw another set of guards stepping onto the bridge from the opposite side. "They're cutting us off," he shouted. Lura looked around quickly, then pointed to a maintenance ladder leading down to the under level. "Down," she said without hesitation. Daniel followed her lead. They descended quickly, the metal rungs cold under their hands. The underlevel was darker, filled with humming machinery and vents that blew bursts of hot air. Daniel knew the layout here. One of the side passages connected directly to the shuttle dock. They ran through the shadows, staying low. The sounds of pursuit above them began to fade. It seemed they had lost the guards, at least for now. Finally, they reached the small dock. The shuttle sat waiting, its hatch unlocked. Daniel climbed inside first, pulling Laura in after him. He moved quickly to the pilot's seat. Powering up the engines, the hum of the ship felt like hope, but that hope was cut short when the CUM system crackled to life. "Unauthorized departure detected," the automated voice announced. "Docking clamps engaged." They were still locked. To the station, Daniel cursed under his breath, racing to override the clamps. Laura stepped beside him, her fingers brushing over the console. "Here," she said, pressing a sequence of keys. The clamps released with a loud clunk. Daniel turned. To her in surprise, "How did you?" "I watched you," she said simply. She had learned it just from watching him work. And in that moment, Daniel realized she was adapting faster than even he thought possible. The shuttle engines roared to life. Daniel steered them away from the dock. Through the small window, the facility shrank into the distance. But red flashes lit the skies behind them. "Patrol ships, they're sending hunters," Daniel said grimly. Laura didn't look afraid. She looked determined. "Then we keep going," she said, her voice steady. Daniel nodded. Pushing the shuttle to full speed, the chase had begun. But now, they weren't just running from something. They were running toward something. Freedom. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. The shuttle's engines hummed like a heartbeat in the dark. Daniel kept his hands steady on the controls. Behind them, the faint red lights of the patrol ships faded one by one. They were moving farther from the alien city, farther from the cold lab where she had been trapped. Laura sat in the co-pilot's seat, her silver skin now dimly lit by the dashboard lights. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It felt full of everything they had been through. Finally, Laura said softly, "We are away." Daniel nodded. "We are." She looked out at the stars, her eyes reflecting their light. "Is this freedom?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "This is what it means to choose your own path." She tilted her head, thinking, "I like it." She said simply, for the first time since they had met. She didn't seem afraid of the unknown. She wasn't still or empty. She was alive. And Daniel could see it in the way she looked at the universe outside. Her eyes had changed, not just in brightness, in depth. Like there was a whole new world inside her now, after hours of travel. Daniel guided the shuttle toward a small asteroid outpost he knew was abandoned. It would be safe for the night when they landed. The engines cooled with a low sigh. Daniel stepped outside first. Checking the air and making sure it was secure, Laura followed, her bare feet touching solid ground that wasn't a lab floor for the first time. She looked around, touching the rough stone walls of the outpost. "It feels different here," she said. "Because it's yours now," Daniel told her. She paused. "Mine?" He nodded. "Out here. You don't belong to anyone. Not to them, not to me. You're your own person." They built a small fire from stored fuel cells in the supply room. The warm glow filled the cold outpost. Laura sat close to it, watching the flickering light as if it was the most fascinating thing she had ever seen. "This is like the cloth you gave me," she said. "Warm, but bigger." Daniel smiled. "It's called a fire." She repeated the word slowly, letting it sink in. After a while, she turned to him. Her voice was quieter than the crackle of the flames. "Daniel, I remember what you told me about love." He looked at her, his heart beating faster. "Yes. I think I understand it now," she said. Her eyes didn't waver. "Love is when you care for someone so much that you would do anything for them." "I would do anything for you." Daniel felt the weight of her words. He had saved her from being erased, but she had saved him too. She had reminded him why he had chosen to work with living beings instead of just machines. She had shown him that even something created could grow beyond what it was made for. "I care about you too," he said, his voice steady but warm. She smiled, not the awkward attempt she had made in the beginning. This was real, alive. "I was made to obey," she said. "But now I want." "What do you want?" Daniel asked. She reached out, her fingers brushing over his hand. "I want to stay with you." He didn't need to think about it. "Then stay," he said simply. Outside the small outpost, the stars shifted slowly across the black sky. Neither of them knew what tomorrow would bring. The scientists would still be searching. The galaxy would still be dangerous. But they had each other as the fire burned low. Laura leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. Her voice was almost a whisper. "I was created in a lab to be empty, but you filled me. You gave me warmth. You gave me choice. You gave me desire." Daniel didn't answer right away. He simply sat there with her, listening to the quiet hum of the shuttle outside and the faint rhythm of her breathing. In that moment, he knew that no matter what they faced, he would protect her. Not because she was fragile, but because she was his. Not as property, but as someone who had chosen him. The fire flickered one last time before settling into glowing embers. Laura closed her eyes. For the first time, her rest was not programmed. It was peaceful. And Daniel kept watch. The cold stars above seemed less distant now, because in a galaxy full of creations made to serve, he had found one who had learned to live and love.